Hello folks and welcome. MX23.2 Xfce desktop, their flagship. So today's video is going to be a tool that complements Thunar, your file manager for images, image viewer. It's called NoMacs. Very limited documentation about that, so that's why I'm doing this video. So I'll be talking about resizing images, converting images, and doing some special things with it regarding wallpaper also. Some cutesy little tools they have. Welcome folks. Filming in 1920 by 1080. Adjust your YouTube player accordingly if necessary. Linux is for any age, but the name of my channel is Linux for Seniors. This icon you should find roughly where your time and date is with yellow bars if you'd like to subscribe. If you don't see that, go find me on YouTube. It's just a reminder. This is a PNG, since we're going to be talking about images today. Alright, so our file manager, Thunar. Jack is our user for today. It's just a made-up name. Over time, Thunar has evolved. We all change. People change. File managers change. Distributions change. But Thunar, the file manager, is found on most, if not all, Xfce distributions. And some of the tools that some of those distros use are different. So the MX folks chose NoMacs. And NoMacs is a tool for image viewing or image manipulation, that kind of stuff. So that's mostly what I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to get over the preliminaries first. This is 4.18.4, just to be clear about this, in case you're on a different version. We can talk about basic stuff like coloring. Now I have double click turned on, and I like double click for many reasons, but one of them is that's the active folder right now that I'm getting ready to click on, and this still stays yellow. And that's a highlighting function, and I'm not sure when they introduced that into the Thunar File Manager, but nonetheless, you can pick a palette thing or do a custom color. All right, so it's right-click, Properties, Highlighter. You can do the backgrounds. That would be Set Background. Pick your palette color, hit Apply. Or if you wanted to change the text to a different color, pick a palette color and hit Set Foreground and Apply. So that's one option. So Edit. Preferences. Just going to talk about a couple things. So as we all use Linux products, we all have different ways of doing things. And sometimes we overlook things. I do the same. And sometimes we don't know about a function, and we either see that through a video or we discover it on our own. And more importantly, I'm going to talk about this one here first. This one is normally off by default. And what that is if I were to make the icons very small, all the icons are small. Okay, but if I wanted an option to make these larger and then these smaller, then we can talk about this tool right here. Just by turning that on, I can make these jumbo and I can make these really small and then switch between the two. Okay, I'm using a tower computer, not a laptop. Standard keyboard, fairly standard computer mouse, not a touchpad. That computer mouse has a scroll wheel on it. Holding down the control key while scrolling back and forth is how I'm resizing. I never know when I have a new viewer, so sometimes I make mention of this quite often. It comes in handy in a lot of things. You're going to see this function many times today, including manipulation of images or even a web browser. All right, I'm going to scroll this back up to some reasonable size and continue now with settings. Again, I'm not going to spend all day in here. I'm just going to talk about a couple things. Draw frames around thumbnails. I think it's a nice touch. Click that. That's normally off, I believe, if you like to see a nice little border. The side pane is the icons over here. And the reason I have two of these because I have two different versions of this. That would be Control B to turn that off, Control B to turn that on, Control E to convert that over to a different viewpoint. All right, Control B again, and that would be your side pane. Control B and E is shortcuts or tree. The side pane is also adjustable this way. All right, let me continue on with settings. The behavior, not yours, is mine is set to double click. There's many reasons why I like this feature, and a lot of Linux file managers have adopted this. I don't like a single click for many reasons. One of them is when I work with script files in a graphical file manager, I don't want it to accidentally trigger depending on the function. but it's also just a preference thing with me. So that's what I'm using today is double click, just as an FYI. On the advanced tab, since we're going to be dealing with images today, and that's what the video you clicked on, let's talk about some options maybe in advanced and to configure. All right, maybe cameras, import digital photographs when connected. You may want to experiment with these options in here. The shortcuts, if you don't like them, some people do and some people don't. You can also assign your own keyboard shortcuts to these things. So a couple of the options that I showed you just a couple seconds ago is this is kind of cryptic. It doesn't really say what the shortcut is for, but Control B is the side pane, and the tree part is also the side pane. All right, F3 is also a feature that a lot of people like and some people don't know about. It's split view. I'm going to demonstrate F3 right now. On a laptop, sometimes the F3 is a pre-assigned to a brightness key, for instance. This is totally mobile. So if you're working with a single window, and these are also independently resizable. Holding down the Control key while scrolling. Again, you're going to see that many times today. What's the benefit of something like that? Well, this could be USB stick, and this could be your file manager documents or whatever, and you're transferring files back and forth. All right. So I activated the tool up here also. So that was split pane or split view. Different names. Since we're going to be talking about NoMacs, which is an image viewing tool that we can do lots of things with, I'm going to first talk about something important because I've made these mistakes over many, many years. Digital photos have been around for a long time, and also we can talk about wallpapers while we're at it. So whatever's important to you image-wise, maybe you just went on a trip, you were on vacation, you took a ton of photos, and you have those photos imported into Thunar right now, and you're getting ready to do something with them, like resizing them, or converting them. Maybe you're putting them on a background for your mobile device. Maybe you're doing a background for your tablet. Maybe you're just going to be sending that to the printer. In other words, someplace that prints photos, such as 4x6 or 8x10s and that kind of stuff. So you may be wanting to do resizing on your own. Do you really want to touch the original before you do that? Probably not. Don't do the same thing I used to do. Take the original, start editing it without backing it up. Backup, backup, backup. Can't have enough backups when it comes down to personal photos especially. If you're working with something that is that precious, because you can't replace that. If you are not wanting to do a full backup, then may I suggest, at least at a bare minimum, you create yourself a junk folder. And you copy the originals into there so you can make your edits and then rename them later. So I just made a junk folder. I'm going to use that special F3 again and click that, open. So what I'm going to do is select several images for my originals. This again could be your photos, your precious photos of your kids, your pets, your friends, or your vacation pictures, and we're going to copy those into here to play with them. So I'll pick a couple of them. I'm going to hold down the Control key while doing this because I have double click turned on. Here's 1, 2, 3. Scroll down a little bit further. We'll pick that one, these two, and maybe some of those digital photos I took with a camera. Copy all of those, right click, copy, and paste. So now I have my copies of the originals, right, into a different folder so I can play with these. So my originals are still intact. I have done this so many times, folks, that's why I'm making mention of it. I've regretted my decisions when I originally edit any original photo without copying it. You should always copy these, but again, these are just demos, but I'm going to treat them the same way. So let me introduce you to NoMacs. So NoMacs is a tool that MX chose to put as a complement to your Thunar File Manager. You can find also NoMacs in some other Linux repos. I believe NoMacs also could be available for Microsoft Windows, although I haven't tested that. In here, if you're aiming to find documentation, you're going to end up more likely with this. That's why I'm doing this video. Okay. So let me talk a little bit about this tool called NoMacs. It has lots of options, as you can see. And later on, toward the end of the video, I'm going to use a thing called Tiny Planet to do something strange with these photos besides the painter guy here. So you can see there's lots of options. So again, this is NoMacs. In here, under Edit, there are some settings. This kind of opens like a web browser. There are 2 tabs here currently. So I'm going to cycle through these fairly quickly. But, you know, whether you're dealing with PNG, and what does that stand for? Portable Network Graphics. I use those pretty heavily to make icons with in that format. I can take actually a JPEG and convert it to a PNG and reduce it to like a 64 by 64. That would be an icon size. I show something similar on my YouTube site with a video that I did on GIMP, which is like Photoshop. That video was posted in November of last year, 2023. So JPEGs are a current file management type of thing on your smartphones or cameras. Joint Photographic Experts Group is what that stands for. Very common image format. All right, continuing on. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is just viewpoints. Viewing the image, holding down the control key while scrolling. All I'm doing is changing the view, not the image itself. We're going to talk about resizing in a minute. There's also a play button you probably noticed. If I hit the space bar, this starts a cycle of these images that are currently in my folder here. It's going to cycle through them until I hit that space bar to stop it, if you wanted to do cutesy things like that. All right, so let's focus in on Painter Guy. We have information that if you are using digital photos that were taken with a smartphone, for instance, that have information of the location, then this will be lit up. Over here is the size of the image going to 100%. Keep in mind you can always hold down the control key and scroll. You're just viewing at this point, not changing. All right, this is working with the image in the current window size, and this is full screen. Even in full screen, I can zoom back and forth with the control key and scroll wheel. This was from wallpaperswide.com if you're curious. This is the actual resize image tool. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit because that's more likely the most function for these things. Whether you're trying to reduce the photograph or image because you want to stick it on a smartphone or a tablet, or maybe you're just resizing this in general for whatever purpose, maybe for printing, whatever. 1920 by 1080 is what I'm filming in, and that's the size of this image also. We have pixels, 1920 by 1080 pixels. We can also do this by percentage. Width and height in centimeters, millimeters, or inch. Standard resolution here is 72 pixels per inch. You also have centimeters. This symbol here, by the way, is a lock. If I click it, it unlocks, and that means I can change these numbers independently. So let me give you an example by changing the front number to 800. The back number doesn't change, so you can probably see that I have a hand here. So I'm going to drag this around to let you see this. And you can probably already tell it's elongated because the original kind of is in this format. Let's see what it looks like. It's kind of stretched. Not very good for this purpose. So I'm going to hit the escape key and use Control Z. Control Z is an undo. Control Z is an undo. Okay. Again, we're working with views here. These are just views. This is the resizer. So I'm going to lock this back up and punch in 800 across here, just as an example. And now that changed to 450, and you can see the window size is the same. 800 by 450. I like to use the save as function, by the way. So I'm going to type that as 12 alpha JPEG and hit OK. Let's compare the two. Properties box of the original, properties box of the new one. I went from 400 and change kilobytes to 200 and change in kilobytes. 800, 1920 by 1080 to 800 by 450. Example of this one here is a photograph taken with a digital camera, actually an iPhone. Okay, so 4,000 and change to 3,000 and change, so a rather large photo. Opening this with NoMacs, I have a symbol up here. It's not a mystery. of where I took this photo, but it shows me coordinates. So if your cameras do this, depending on which digital camera you're using, it's no mystery that I live in the state of Oregon, but anyways, I don't live down here though. This is one of my beach trips that I took. I know you can see exactly where that photo was taken, near Brookings, Oregon, USA. So if you have digital information like that, it comes in handy. All right, so I'm gonna take this 3000 by 4000 and reduce this to, I don't know, maybe 1080 or something like that. And I'll just leave the other aspect ratio at 1440. Now, instead of using JPEG, I'm gonna convert this to a PNG. So I will take that 144, give it an AB name on it, and PNG. Would I normally do this with a JPEG? No. Not in this size anyways. But I could, if I was aiming for icon size, and reduce it way down. But I'm just going to give you the example of this. So here's the original image with that is 4000 and change by 3000. So this is the PNG. And that image is currently 1080 by 1440. It doesn't display this information in here. That doesn't mean it's lost at all though. There's two reasons for this. All right, first of all, it's because it's not a JPEG, but the information is still there. It's just not being displayed. So just to give you an example, if you open this with NoMacs, if I click that symbol, it'll still find where this photo was taken from. It's still in the same location that I was in. It's a little bit farther up the coast though, I think. But anyways, you can still see Brookings' identification, and you can see the coordinates. So, but more importantly, if I reconvert this image, not using the original, which is here, back to a JPEG, I'll just use the same name. It will gather that information back. I'm going to open this again with NoMacs. I'll just right click and you'll just see that. So this time I'm just going to do a straight save as. And we're going to just leave that as 144 AB JPEG. And hit OK. All right, so that all I did was take this and convert it. I didn't do it from the original. The original went from here to here, and I went from here to here. And I reconverted the PNG back into a JPEG. So if it would have stripped the information off, the digital information off from here to here, then I would not be able to do what I'm about to show you, which it brought back the same information. All right, so just wanted to point that out to you. PNG does not display that, but that doesn't mean that all the information is lost either. Okay, it all depends on your JPEG too. Keep in mind, some of these things that got off the internet, they're JPEGs, but they don't have any digital information onto it. So I don't see any of that stuff. But these are my own photographs. So computer guy. So we can talk about the resizing tools. We can also talk about maybe some adjustments, converting that to grayscale, Control Z to undo. You know, you can do stuff like that. We can also talk about doing some weird stuff. Now that I made a change, it's asking me, do I want to save something? I'm going to do a cancel or a no, right? Because I didn't make any changes, but at least it thought I did. So there's some safety precautions in there. So I'm going to do something strange to a couple of these things just to have a little fun. And we're going to make wallpapers from these two photographs right here as examples. I'm going to open this again up with NoMacs and click the Tiny Planet. And this actually has a customizable tool in here too, but I'm just going to use the default on this one. And I'm going to save as, not a copy. And we'll call that Wallpapers 1. Or Wallpaper 1. Wallpaper. It's horrible when you have spelling errors when you're trying to talk. JPEG. What's in a language, right? Yeah, Icelandic is my primary language also. But anyways, save. And OK. It's kind of weird looking, huh? I went from this to that. I'll show you what it looks like in a second as wallpaper. Let's do the same with this guy. And we will use the Tiny Planet tool and do another save as. And I'll cheat by clicking that and then change the last digit to a 2. Because I don't want to retype all that. Okay, now I have 2 weird looking wallpapers I created from 2 photos or JPEGs. I will first show you the first one and right click, set as wallpaper. Just give you that. Kind of strange looking, huh? Then I'm going to click this one and set as wallpaper and close. Lots of different things you can do with this tool. Thank you for watching, folks. Again, I have lots of videos on my YouTube site.